Minho rubbed his tired eyes as he walked through the long metal hallways of Space Station. Omega 7, his work uniform, was dirty with grease in his tool belt, made soft clinking sounds with each step he took the young man had been working for. 18 hours straight fixing broken air systems and patching holes in the station walls. All he wanted now was to find a quiet bar where he could drink something cold and forget about his problems. The space station was huge, like a floating city. In the darkness of space, thousands of different alien species lived and worked here, making it one of the busiest places in the galaxy. Minho had been working here for 6 months as a maintenance engineer, but he still got lost in the endless corridors that all looked the same to him. The walls were gray metal, and the lights were dimmed to save power. His feet hurt in his heavy work boots, and his back ached from crawling through tight spaces all day. Minho had fixed 7 broken air recyclers and 2 hull breaches today, and his supervisor had already given him a list of more problems to solve tomorrow. He was only 25 years old, but felt much older after months of this endless work. The entertainment district was supposed to be on level 5, but Minho had taken a wrong turn somewhere, and now he was completely lost. The corridor signs were written in alien languages he could not read, and there were no other humans around to ask for directions. Most of the aliens he passed looked busy with their own problems and did not seem friendly. Minho stopped at what looked like an information panel on the wall, but it was broken and showed only static. He sighed and kept walking, hoping to find someone who could help him. The hallway seemed to stretch on forever, and the air felt thick and warm. His stomach growled loudly, reminding him that he had not eaten anything since breakfast. After walking for another 10 minutes, Minho saw a large doorway ahead with bright lights. Coming from inside, he could hear loud voices and what sounded like music. This had to be the entertainment district he was looking for. He quickened his pace, feeling relief that his long day was finally ending. As he got closer to the doorway, Minho noticed the sounds were much louder than he expected. It sounded less like a bar and more like some kind of sports event with thousands of people cheering and shouting. The lights were also much brighter than normal bar lighting, but Minho was too tired to think clearly about what this might mean. The doorway was tall enough for the biggest aliens to walk through and had no door, just an opening with shimmering energy field. He had seen these before on the station. They were used to keep air, and while letting people pass through, Minho walked straight toward it, without hesitation, thinking only about getting that cold drink he had been wanting all day. The moment he stepped through the energy field, everything changed. The sound hit him like a physical wall, making his ears ring and his head pound. The cheering was not from a small bar crowd, but from thousands and thousands of alien voices, all screaming at once. The air smelled like metal and something else, something dark and scary that made his nose wrinkle. Minho found himself standing on hot sand that felt rough under his work boots. The sand was not the clean yellow kind from Earth beaches, but a dark reddish color that looked wrong somehow above him. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it, and it was filled with row after row of seats packed with alien spectators. All of them were looking down at him and screaming. His heart started beating very fast as he realized this was not a bar at all. He was standing in the middle of a huge arena like the old Roman Colosseum from Earth history books, but much bigger and filled with creatures from across the galaxy. The aliens in the stands had tentacles and claws and teeth that gleamed in the bright lights. Some had multiple eyes that all focused on him at once. Bright holographic displays appeared in the air around the arena, showing numbers and symbols that Minho could not understand, but the meaning was clear. These were betting odds, and they were not in his favor. Most of the numbers next to his image were very small, while other numbers were very large. This was some kind of fighting arena, and somehow he had become one of the fighters. Panic started to fill his chest as he looked around frantically for an exit. The walls of the arena were too high to climb and smooth metal with no handholds. The only openings he could see were gates that had thick metal bars blocking them. Alien guards with weapons stood near each gate, watching him with interest. A loud horn sound echoed through the arena, making all the spectators cheer even louder. Across the sandy floor from where Minho stood, another gate was opening with a grinding metal sound. Something large and dark was moving behind the bars, and Minho could hear heavy footsteps getting closer. His hands started shaking as he realized he was trapped in this place with whatever was coming through that gate. The creature that emerged was like nothing from his worst nightmares. It stood 8 feet tall with purple skin that looked like leather and 4 muscular arms that ended in claws longer than kitchen knives. Its yellow eyes were the size of dinner plates and focused on Minho with the kind of look a cat gives a mouse its mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth, and it made a sound like thunder mixed with a growl. Minho looked down at his tool belt and grabbed the only thing that might work as a weapon, his plasma cutter. It was designed for cutting through metal pipes and wires. Not fighting alien monsters, but it was all he had. The small device felt like a toy in his shaking hands compared to the massive creature walking toward him. The crowd was going crazy with excitement as they watched the small human face the giant alien warrior. Holographic cameras floated around the arena recording everything for broadcasts across the galaxy. Minho had somehow become the main event in what was clearly the most dangerous fighting competition in known space. The purple giant stretched its 4 arms and roared so loudly that sand fell from the arena walls. The sound made Minho stumble backward, his ears ringing and his vision blurring. This was not how he had planned to end his day. At this moment he would have given anything to be back in the cramped maintenance tunnels fixing broken air recyclers instead of facing certain death in an alien gladiator arena. But there was nowhere to run and no way out. The only choice was to fight or die trying. The purple giant charged across the arena sand with incredible speed for something so large. Each of its 4 arms moved like deadly spinning blades, and its yellow eyes never left Minho, who stood frozen in terror. The crowd roared louder as the distance between the human and the alien warrior closed rapidly. Minho could feel the ground shaking under his feet from the creature's heavy footsteps. At the last second, his engineering training kicked in. Without thinking, he dove to the right behind a large piece of broken metal that had been left on the arena floor from previous battles. The creature's claws scraped against the metal barrier with a sound like nails on a chalkboard, sending bright sparks flying in all directions. Minho pressed himself against the cold metal and tried to think of a way out of this nightmare. The alien warrior circled around the barrier, looking for an opening to attack again. Its movements were powerful, but Minho noticed something interesting about how it moved. Years of working with machinery had taught him to spot problems in moving parts, and this creature moved like a machine with hydraulic systems every time it flexed its arms or moved its legs. There were small sparks coming from its joints. Minho realized that this alien was not entirely biological. It had mechanical parts built into its body, probably to make it stronger and faster in combat. This gave him an idea that might save his life. His plasma cutter was designed to cut through metal, and if this creature had metal parts, maybe he could damage them. The purple giant grew impatient and decided to smash through the barrier instead of going around it. It raised all 4 arms above its head and brought them down with tremendous force. The metal crumpled like paper, but the impact also exposed the creature's left knee joint, where Minho could clearly see hydraulic cables and power couplings. Without hesitation, Minho aimed his plasma cutter at the exposed joint. The concentrated energy beam sliced through the hydraulic lines like butter, causing purple fluid to spray everywhere. The creature let out a deafening roar of pain and surprise. As its left leg stopped working properly, it stumbled and crashed to the arena floor in a heap of confused limbs. The entire arena fell completely silent for several heartbeats. Even the alien spectators seemed shocked by what they had just witnessed. A small human with a simple tool had defeated one of their champion warriors using nothing but quick thinking and technical knowledge. Then the silence exploded into the loudest cheering Minho had ever heard. Holographic displays around the arena flashed with updated betting odds and instant replays of the victory. Alien commentators babbled excitedly in languages that sounded like music mixed with static. Their translation devices finally started working, and Minho heard broken Korean coming from the speakers around the arena. The human fighter has achieved victory through innovative technical combat, the mechanical voice announced. The crowd shows great appreciation for this unexpected strategy. Victory credits are being transferred to fighter account number 7749. This was the first indication Minho had that winning came with some kind of reward. Medical drones that looked like floating metal boxes with robotic arms descended from the arena ceiling. They carefully lifted the groaning purple giant and carried it away through one of the side gates. The Creature was still alive but would need major repairs to its mechanical systems before it could fight again. Minho stood in the center of the arena holding his still smoking plasma cutter and trying to understand what had just happened. The cheering continued for several minutes before a new holographic announcer appeared above the sand. This one looked more official and spoke in clearer Korean. Congratulations to the human competitor on his first arena victory. It said your performance has generated significant interest among our spectators. According to arena regulations, you have earned the right to continue competing or to accept immediate departure with current prize credits. The word current made Minho nervous. How much money had he supposedly earned, and what did continuing to compete mean? Before he could ask any questions, the announcer continued speaking. However, departure privileges only apply to competitors who have achieved champion status through multiple victories. Your current status allows for rest period before next scheduled match. Tomorrow you will face the crystalline Devastator in what promises to be another exciting contest. Minho felt his heart sink into his stomach. He was trapped in this place until he either died or somehow won enough fights to become a champion. The crowd was already discussing his next battle with obvious excitement while he stood there trying not to panic about fighting something called the Crystalline Devastator Arena. Guards that looked like walking tanks approached him, but they seemed friendly rather than threatening. One of them handed him a small device that translated their words into Korean. You fight well for a soft species, the guard said. Your quarters have been prepared on level 3. Report to medical bay for injury assessment, then proceed to rest area. Food and equipment maintenance services are available. Guard pointed toward one of the gates which had opened to reveal a corridor leading deeper into the arena complex. Minho had no choice but to follow the directions, since staying in the main arena was not an option. The gate closed behind him with a heavy thud that sounded very final. The corridor was cleaner than the station where he worked, with smooth walls and good lighting. Other fighters were walking around, including some that looked almost human and others that were completely alien. Most of them nodded respectfully when they saw him, which was unexpected. He had thought they would see him as easy prey. A small robot guided him to the medical bay, where alien doctors ran strange scanning devices over his body. They seemed surprised that he had no injuries from his first fight and made notes on electronic tablets in languages he could not read. One of them gave him a small patch to put on his arm that would translate basic arena communications. His quarters turned out to be a small but comfortable room with a bed that adjusted to human proportions, a bathroom with Earth-style fixtures, and even a small kitchen area. A screen on the wall showed information about his next opponent, including video of previous fights. The Crystalline Devastator looked like a giant insect made of living glass with razor-sharp edges and the ability to shoot energy beams from its eyes. Minho sat on the bed and stared at the screen, trying to figure out how his simple desire for a drink had turned into a fight for survival in an alien gladiator arena. Tomorrow he would face a creature that could cut him in half with its claws or blind him with energy beams. His only advantage was his engineering knowledge and a plasma cutter that might not work against a crystalline opponent. But as he watched the videos of his next opponent, Minho began to notice things that other people might miss. The creature moved in predictable patterns and seemed to have trouble with certain frequencies of sound. He started forming a plan that might give him a chance to survive another day in this deadly place. 3 days had passed since Minho first stumbled into the blood arena, and he was still alive, which surprised everyone, including himself. His victory against the Crystalline Devastator had been even more spectacular than his first fight. He had used his sonic wrench to create harmonic frequencies that shattered the creature's glass-like body into thousands of sparkling pieces. The crowd had gone wild with excitement. His third opponent had been a blob creature that could dissolve metal. With its acidic touch, Minho had defeated it by building a containment field from arena lighting equipment, trapping the creature in an energy cage until it surrendered. The alien spectators were starting to call him the human mechanic and betting enormous amounts of money on his increasingly impossible victories. Now he sat in his quarters studying video footage of his next opponent, a massive robot warrior called the Iron Destroyer. It stood 12 feet tall and was built like a walking tank with weapon systems that could level entire buildings. Minho knew his usual tricks would not work against something designed specifically for combat, his plasma cutter and makeshift tools. seemed pathetic compared to military-grade armor and weapons. The arena medical staff had been amazed by his ability to survive fights that should have killed him instantly. Human physiology was apparently much tougher than most aliens expected, and his engineering background gave him advantages that no one had anticipated. He could see weaknesses in opponents that trained warriors missed because he looked at them like broken machines instead of living enemies. Between fights, Minho had been learning about the arena and its rules from other competitors. Most of them were professional gladiators who had been fighting for years, earning money and fame through combat. He was the only person who had ended up here by accident, and his unusual fighting style was becoming legendary throughout the galaxy. The betting pools for his fights were now worth millions of credits, and holographic broadcasts of his matches were being sent to hundreds of worlds. People were calling him everything from the human engineer to the accidental champion, but Minho just wanted to survive long enough to earn his freedom and go home to his quiet life. His door chimed, and a small alien entered carrying a tablet with information about tomorrow's fight. The creature looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird with colorful feathers and intelligent green eyes. It spoke in surprisingly good Korean through a translation device. Your popularity has created an unusual situation. It said the arena masters have decided to accelerate your path to championship status. If you defeat the Iron Destroyer tomorrow, you will advance directly to the semi-final rounds. This means only 3 more victories are required for complete freedom. Minho felt his heart jump with hope and terror at the same time. Only 3 more. Fights sounded wonderful, but he knew the opponents would get deadlier with each round. The semifinals and championship matches were where the real monsters fought, creatures so dangerous that most gladiators died just trying to qualify. Tell me about the Iron Destroyer, Minho said, studying the video footage. The robot moved with mechanical precision, but something about its design seemed familiar to him, like machinery he had worked on before. The alien consultant pulled up detailed technical specifications on its tablet. The Iron Destroyer was built by the Vectari Empire as a prototype war machine. It has adaptive combat protocols that learn from each battle, making it nearly impossible to defeat using the same strategy twice. However, its power source requires regular energy cycling, which creates brief vulnerability windows. Minho studied the power consumption charts and recognized the pattern. The robot used the same type of fusion reactor that powered the space stations where he worked. He knew exactly how those systems operated, including their weaknesses and failure points. If he could get close enough to access the power coupling, he might have a chance. The next morning came too quickly, and Minho found himself standing in the arena once again. The crowd was the largest he had seen yet, with spectators from dozens of different worlds all wanting to see if the human mechanic could defeat a military war machine. The betting displays showed odds that were closer than usual, indicating that people were starting to believe he might actually win. The Iron Destroyer entered through the main gate, moving with heavy mechanical steps that shook the arena floor. Its armor was polished black metal that reflected the lights like a mirror, and its weapon systems included plasma cannons, energy blades, and missile launchers. The crowd cheered as it performed a demonstration of its combat capabilities, destroying several large targets with casual efficiency. Minho checked his equipment one more time. He had modified his plasma cutter to produce a more focused beam and rigged his sonic wrench to generate electromagnetic pulses that might interfere with the robot's sensors. It was not much against a war machine, but it was all he had. The battle began with the Iron Destroyer immediately launching a barrage of missiles that forced Minho to dive for cover behind the largest piece of debris in the arena. The explosions filled the air with smoke and sand, making it hard to see or breathe, but Minho had expected this and used the confusion to circle around toward the robot's blind spot. Getting close to the war machine was like trying to hug a volcano. It radiated heat from its fusion reactor, and its defensive systems tracked his every movement, but Minho had studied the power cycling patterns and knew there would be a brief moment when the reactor needed to vent excess energy through external ports. When that moment came, Minho was ready. He sprinted across the open sand, dodging energy blasts, and reached the robot's left leg, where the primary power coupling was located. His modified plasma cutter burned through the access panel in seconds, and he jammed his sonic wrench directly into the fusion reactor's Control circuit, electromagnetic pulse caused a cascade failure in the robot systems. The Iron Destroyer froze in place for several seconds, giving Minho time to scramble away before it crashed to the arena floor with a thunderous impact that cracked the stone walls. The crowd erupted in disbelief as smoke poured from the disabled war. Machine Arena officials rushed onto the sand to confirm that the robot was completely offline while medical drones checked. Minho, for injuries he had somehow survived another impossible fight and earned his place in the semi-final rounds. Only 2 more victories stood between him and freedom, but he knew the worst was yet to come as he walked back to his quarters through crowds of cheering alien spectators. Minho tried not to think about what kind of opponents awaited him in the championship rounds. If a military war machine was just a warm-up for the semi-finals, then the final battles would be beyond anything he could imagine. 2 weeks had passed since Minho first entered the Blood Arena, and his name was now known across the galaxy. The human mechanic had advanced through the semi-final rounds, defeating opponents that seasoned warriors avoided. His victory against the Void Wraith, a creature made of living shadow, had required him to build a light amplification device from spare parts. His triumph over the Plasma Dragon had involved redirecting the creature's own fire breath back at it using reflective metal panels now. He stood in the preparation chamber beneath the main arena waiting for the championship match that would either grant him freedom or end his life. The crowd above was the largest in arena history, with beings from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness what many were calling the most unlikely championship bid ever seen. His opponent was legendary throughout the galaxy. Nara of the Vectari Empire had never lost a single match in over 5 years of competition. Her record showed 312 victories with 0 defeats. She was known for her intelligence in battle and her preference for studying opponents before delivering precise killing strikes that left no chance for survival. Minho had watched every available recording of her fights, and what he saw terrified him. Nara was not just physically powerful, she was a tactical genius who adapted to any situation. She had defeated opponents using their own weapons against them and seemed to anticipate every move before it happened. Her silver skin was not just for show, it was naturally armored and could deflect most energy weapons. The arena officials had explained that as the defending champion, Nara had certain privileges, including the right to observe her opponents' previous matches. She would know all of his tricks and strategies while he could only guess at her true capabilities. The betting odds were more heavily against him than they had been for any previous fight. A soft chime indicated it was time for the final battle. Minho gathered his modified tools and walked up the ramp toward the arena entrance. His plasma cutter now had 3 different power settings, and his sonic wrench could generate frequencies that had proven effective against various alien physiologies. He had also acquired a small energy shield generator that might protect him for a few seconds against direct attacks. The roar of the crowd hit him like a wall of sound as he emerged into the bright arena lights. Holographic displays showed his image next to statistics that seemed impossible even to him. 12 victories, 0 defeats, and earnings that would make him wealthy beyond imagination if he lived to collect them. The spectators were on their feet cheering for the underdog human who had captured their imagination. Across the arena, the Champions Gate was opening. Nara emerged with the fluid grace of a natural predator. Moving like liquid mercury given form, she stood 7 feet tall with silver skin that seemed to absorb and reflect light at the same time. Her violet eyes scanned the arena with calculating intelligence before focusing on Minho with an expression he could not read. What surprised him most was that she did not immediately assume a fighting stance. Instead, she walked slowly across the sand, studying him with the same careful attention he had seen her give to complex technical problems. Her movements were economical and precise, like a master craftsman examining a delicate piece of machinery. The crowd grew quiet as the 2 fighters approached each other, expecting the usual pre-battle intimidation displays that were traditional in championship matches, but Nara stopped about 10 feet away from Minho and tilted her head slightly as if listening to something only she could hear. "You are not what I expected," she said in clear Korean that was only slightly accented. Her voice was deeper than a human woman's, but pleasant to listen to. "Most opponents try to appear fierce or confident, but you look Like someone solving a puzzle, Minho was too surprised to respond immediately. He had not expected casual conversation before a fight to the death. The arena officials seemed confused as well, since this was highly unusual behavior for a championship match. The betting displays flickered as oddsmakers tried to interpret what was happening. "I have watched all of your fights." Nara continued, walking in a slow circle around him like a scientist studying a specimen. "Your approach to combat is unlike anything in our databases. You treat living opponents like broken machines that need repair. This is either brilliant or completely insane." The formal battle signal had not yet sounded, so technically they were still in the pre-combat phase, where brief conversation was allowed. Minho found his voice and decided to be honest, since he might die in the next few minutes. "Anyway, I never wanted to be here," he said. "I just got lost looking for a bar and walked through the wrong door. Everything I have done is just trying to stay alive long enough to go home." Nara stopped circling and faced him directly. For the first time since entering the arena, she smiled, and it transformed her entire appearance from terrifying predator to something almost friendly. The crowd murmured in confusion, since smiling was not typical championship behavior. "That explains much," she said. "Most fighters come here seeking glory or wealth or to prove their strength, but you fight like someone who simply refuses to die. This makes you far more dangerous than traditional warriors because you have nothing to prove and everything to lose." The arena horn sounded, indicating that the formal battle phase was beginning. Nara immediately shifted into a combat stance, but her movements seemed different from the recordings Minho had studied. She was not preparing for a quick, decisive strike, but rather settling into a position that suggested a longer, more complex engagement. As the crowd roared its approval, the championship match began, but instead of the brutal efficiency she was famous for, Nara moved with restraint, testing Minho's defenses rather than overwhelming them. Her attacks were precise but not immediately lethal, as if she was conducting an experiment. Rather than trying to kill him, Minho responded with his usual tactical approach, analyzing her movements and looking for mechanical weaknesses. But Nara was entirely biological, with no obvious technical vulnerabilities. She countered his modified tools with techniques he had never seen, forcing him to adapt and innovate in real time. What he gradually realized was that this was not really a fight to the death at all. Nara was evaluating him, measuring not just his combat skills but his intelligence, creativity, and determination. She was conducting the most dangerous job, interviewing galactic history, and the prize was something far more valuable than mere freedom. The battle continued for almost an hour, with both fighters pushing each other to greater heights of skill and innovation. The crowd was mesmerized by the display of tactical brilliance as two completely different fighting philosophies clashed in perfect harmony. It was less like watching a gladiator match and more like witnessing a deadly dance between minds that understood each other perfectly. When Nara finally allowed him to land what appeared to be the winning blow, her smile told Minho that victory would come with complications he had never imagined. The arena erupted in the loudest celebration Minho had ever heard as he was declared the new champion. Holographic fireworks exploded in the air above the sand, while alien spectators from hundreds of worlds cheered for the impossible victory of the human mechanic. But his confusion only deepened when Nara approached him with what looked like pride rather than defeat in her violet eyes. Instead of the anger or shame he expected from a dethroned champion, Nara moved with the same graceful confidence she had shown throughout their battle. She knelt on one knee in the center of the arena, a gesture that caused the entire crowd to fall silent in shocked surprise. Even the holographic displays stopped flashing as everyone tried to understand what was happening. "According to the ancient laws of my people," she said in clear Korean that carried across the arena through amplification systems, "a warrior who defeats our greatest champion in honorable single combat may claim any prize that is within our power to grant. This right has not been invoked in over 2 centuries, but the law remains binding." Minho stared down at her kneeling form, trying to process what she was saying. The arena officials were frantically checking legal databases, while commentators babbled in excitement about unprecedented events. The betting systems had crashed completely, since no one had prepared odds for whatever was about to happen. "I offer myself as your bonded mate," Nara continued, her voice carrying a formality that suggested this was some kind of official ceremony by the laws of combat and the traditions of the Vektari Empire. You have earned the right to claim my allegiance, my protection, and my partnership for as long as we both shall live. Crowd exploded again, but this time with a different kind of energy. Alien spectators were shouting translations to each other, while others pulled out recording devices to capture the historic moment. Minho could see arena security moving to control the chaos, but even they seemed unsure about how to handle this situation. You have been studying our language, Minho said, still trying to understand what was happening. Your Korean is too good for someone who just learned ID. Have been preparing for this possibility since your third victory, Nara replied, rising to her feet but maintaining a respectful distance. I began studying Earth, languages, and human culture when it became clear that you might actually reach the championship round. Your species fascinates me in ways I did not expect. Holographic displays around the arena began showing information that made Minho feel dizzy. Nara's record was not just about gladiatorial combat. She was a decorated military commander who had defended entire star systems from hostile forces. Her body count included not just arena opponents, but enemy fleets and invasion armies that had threatened civilian populations. She held the rank of Fleet Admiral in the Vektari Imperial Navy and commanded respect from warriors across the galaxy. Her decision to fight in the arena had been a form of diplomatic service, representing her people's strength and honor on neutral ground. Her offer to bond with him carried implications that extended far beyond personal relationships. The arena announcer finally found his voice and began explaining the situation to the confused crowd. In Vektari culture, a bonded mate was not just a romantic partner, but a full military and political alliance. The human would inherit Nara's rank and responsibilities, including command of her battle fleet and authority over the defense of frontier colonies. This is not just about marriage, Nara explained as chaos continued around them. You would become my equal partner in protecting worlds that cannot protect themselves. Your engineering skills combined with my combat experience would make us uniquely effective at the kinds of missions that regular military units cannot handle. Minho looked around the arena at the thousands of alien faces watching his decision. The betting displays had started working again, but now they were taking odds on whether he would accept the most unusual prize in gladiatorial history. His quiet life as a maintenance engineer seemed very far away from this moment. What exactly would accepting mean, he asked, trying to think clearly. Despite the overwhelming situation, it means leaving behind everything you knew before. Nara said honestly, you would come with me to the frontier regions, where pirates and slavers prey on peaceful colonies. Your technical knowledge would be invaluable for maintaining our equipment and finding creative solutions to tactical problems. She gestured toward the crowd and the holographic displays showing coverage of their conversation being broadcast across the galaxy. This moment is being watched by billions of beings throughout known space. Your decision will affect not just our personal lives, but the political relationships between Earth and the Vektari Empire. The arena officials approached with documents that looked official and intimidating. One of them spoke through a translation device, explaining that accepting Nara's offer would grant Minho citizenship in 2 different stellar nations, along with military rank equivalent to her own. Refusing would mean returning to Earth with his prize money, but potentially creating a diplomatic incident. I need to understand something first, Minho said, addressing Nara directly. Why would someone like you want to partner with someone like me? You could have any warrior in the galaxy as a mate. Why choose a maintenance engineer who stumbled into your arena by accident? Because that accident revealed something extraordinary about your species, Nara replied. Most sentient beings fight to win or to prove their superiority, but humans fight to survive, and that makes you far more dangerous than traditional warriors. You have shown tactical flexibility that our military academies cannot teach. She pointed to the arena floor where their battle had taken place. In 1 hour, you adapted to 17 different combat strategies that I have perfected over years of training. You treated each of my attacks like a technical problem to be solved rather than a personal challenge to be met with force. This kind of thinking is exactly what we need in the frontier regions. The crowd was growing restless, waiting for his decision, but Minho needed more time to think. The offer was incredible, but it meant abandoning his old life completely. He would never again fix air recyclers or patch hull breaches on peaceful space stations. Instead, he would be fighting pirates and defending colonies from threats he could barely imagine. What happens if I say no? He asked. Then you return to Earth as the richest maintenance engineer in human history, Nara said with a smile that seemed genuinely fond. But the frontier colonies will continue to struggle without the kind of innovative thinking that only humans seem to possess. Many innocent people will die who might otherwise have lived. Minho looked up at the thousands of alien faces waiting for his answer and realized that his accidental entry into the blood arena had led to a moment that would change his life forever. No matter what he chose, nothing would ever be the same again. Standing in the center of the blood-soaked arena, surrounded by the deafening cheers of thousands of alien spectators, Minho made the decision that would change everything. He looked into Nara's violet eyes and saw not just a fierce warrior, but someone who understood him in ways he had never experienced before. The quiet maintenance engineer who had stumbled through the wrong door was gone. Forever I accept, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the arena amplification systems. The moment their hands touched, energy coursed between them that made the air itself seem to shimmer. The crowd recognized this as the formal sealing of a warrior bond, and their cheers reached levels that threatened to crack the arena walls. Holographic displays exploded with information about the historic moment, while reporters from across the galaxy scrambled to broadcast the unprecedented alliance. What followed was a blur of ceremonies, legal documentation, and cultural briefings that made Minho's head spin. Arena officials who had seemed so threatening before now treated him with deep respect as they explained his new status and responsibilities. Nara guided him through each step of the complex process with patience and humor that made the overwhelming situation bearable. The bonding ceremony itself was surprisingly simple but deeply meaningful. They stood before a Vectari elder who spoke in ancient words that carried the weight of traditions spanning thousands of years. Minho repeated phrases in the Vectari language that bound him not just to Nara, but to her people and their cause of protecting the innocent across the galaxy. As the ceremonies concluded, Nara led him through corridors he had never seen before, toward private quarters that were far more luxurious than his fighter accommodation. The walls were decorated with holographic displays, showing star maps and tactical information that would soon become part of his daily life. She explained that they would depart for her home world within hours to begin his training as her partner in both military and personal matters. Your engineering background will require supplementation with tactical knowledge, Nara said as they walked through halls filled with advanced technology. You will need to understand fleet operations, combat logistics, and the political situations that create conflicts in the frontier regions. But your natural problem-solving abilities suggest you will adapt quickly. They paused at a large window that looked out into space where Minho's new life awaited him. Nara's command ship was a sleek vessel that combined military functionality with elegant design. It was large enough to carry a crew of 200 and equipped with weapons systems that could defend entire planets from hostile forces. The ship is called Harmony of Steel, Nara explained, and it will be our home as well as our mobile base of operations. The crew has served with me for years, and they are eager to meet the human who defeated me in single combat. Your reputation has already spread throughout the fleet. Minho pressed his hand against the cool window and tried to process the magnitude of what he was accepting. This massive warship would be his responsibility to help maintain and operate. He would go from fixing air recyclers to maintaining weapons that could level cities. The crew would look to him for leadership in situations where lives hung in the balance. What will our first mission be? He asked, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The Corvin system has been suffering raids by pirate fleets that use advanced hit-and-run tactics, Nara replied, pulling up holographic displays that showed star charts and tactical analyses. Traditional military responses have been ineffective because the pirates adapt quickly to conventional strategies. Your approach of treating each problem as a unique engineering challenge should give us advantages that regular forces lack. She showed him recordings of the pirate attacks which demonstrated sophisticated technology and careful planning. The raiders struck merchant convoys and civilian stations with precision that suggested inside knowledge of shipping schedules and defense Capabilities several frontier. Colonies had been abandoned after repeated attacks that local forces could not prevent. The pirates use modified ships with unusual power signatures that make them difficult to track. Nara continued highlighting technical details that immediately caught Minho's attention. Their weapon systems appear to be jury-rigged combinations of military and civilian technology, which should be impossible according to standard engineering principles. Minho studied the data and began to see patterns that reminded him of his own improvised arena weapons. The pirates were not using traditional military thinking but rather creative problem-solving similar to his own approach. This made them dangerous but also potentially predictable once he understood their methodology. I think I can help with this, he said, feeling genuine excitement for the first time since entering the arena. These modifications follow engineering logic that I recognize give me access to your technical databases, and I should be able to predict their next innovation. Nara's smile was brilliant as she realized he was already beginning to think like her military partner rather than a reluctant civilian. The crew will be pleased to hear that our new tactical advisor is eager to begin work, she said. Your first briefing with the senior officers is scheduled for tomorrow morning. As their transport ship prepared to dock with the Harmony of Steel, Minho looked back at the space station where his life had taken such an unexpected turn. He had entered as a tired maintenance engineer looking for a quiet drink and was leaving as the bonded mate of one of the galaxy's most respected warriors. The universe had suddenly become a much larger and more dangerous place, but for the first time in years, Minho felt like he was exactly where he belonged. His accidental victory had won him more than just a powerful alien bride. It had given him a purpose he never knew he was searching for, and a partner who valued his mind as much as his courage. The maintenance engineer was gone, replaced by something new and exciting. Admiral Minho of the Vectari fleet sounded strange to his ears, but he was ready to learn what it meant. The frontier worlds needed protection, and he had the skills to provide it in ways no one else could imagine. His adventure in the blood arena was over, but his real journey was just beginning.